Hello, welcome to my human design channel. My name is Zsuzsi. This is HD by Z. If you're new here, this is a space where we look at celebrity charts and analyze their relationships. Sometimes I talk about the human design system itself, and occasionally I interview people who have done human design with me so you can get an idea of how the system can help you. Well, guys, I've been away for a while. I was traveling for most of March, and I didn't really have the bandwidth to make one of these videos, but what I did have the bandwidth to do is watch Daisy Jones and the Six on Amazon Prime. If you haven't watched it, it's amazing. I highly recommend. Very well acted. The music's amazing. I keep listening to the soundtrack. And what's so interesting about this fictional show based on a novel is that the novel itself was written based on the story of Fleetwood Mac. Imagine having a real life story so juicy that they had to turn it into a novel. This is an example of life being more interesting than fiction in a lot of ways. And so, of course, as I'm watching these characters and this drama unfold, I start to wonder what was really going on behind the scenes with Fleetwood Mac. What was all the hubbub about? So I took a look at some charts, and oh man, there's some great stuff there. But before we get into all of that, I just want to remind you all that if you want to work with me, all of my information will be in the show notes in a master link. On my website, you can see that I do readings, I do couples analysis, I do relationship coaching, and I just launched an incredible new opportunity to work with me in person in Mount Shasta. I'm doing a women's retreat in July this year, and the link for that will be below. It's at the Sacred Waters Resort in Mount Shasta, July 13th through the 17th. I would love for you to join us. We're going to have human design, of course, and I'm co-hosting this with some of my friends. They'll be doing EFT tapping, we'll be doing sound healing, crystal grids, all of the food is included in the price, and of course, we'll be going on a hike to Mount Shasta, which is an amazing experience in and of itself. If you have any questions about that, feel free to email me. My email will be in the show notes as well. Now let's get into what you're really here for, the tea on Fleetwood Mac. So right after I finished watching Daisy Jones and the Six, I decided to watch a documentary about the real band. So the story goes that Fleetwood Mac started out as sort of like a bluegrass, bluesy band in England, and they were very successful in their own right. But then they came to Los Angeles to record an album where they met Lindsey Buckingham, and they really wanted him to be their new guitarist. But he was in like a duo with his girlfriend, Stevie Nicks. So he kind of said, sorry guys, I come as a package deal. And so Stevie came on as their new front woman, and they created the album Rumors together, which is like one of the most amazing albums of all time ever, potentially. And the story goes that Lindsey and Stevie were already having a lot of problems, but their chemistry on stage and their ability to make music together far outweighed the problems they were having in their personal lives. So basically, they put everything aside to be able to write this album. And it's basically a breakup album to each other. And then Stevie ended up having an affair with Mick Fleetwood, the drummer in the band. And then he ended up leaving Stevie for her best friend, which is a separate messy story that we won't even get into. So we're going to start by exploring the chemistry between Stevie and Lindsey and seeing what was really going on behind the surface. So let's take a look at their charts. All right, so this is Stevie Nicks. She's a manifesting generator. She's emotional authority, split definition, 6-2 profile on the left angle cross of duality. Now, I just want to point out that as this 2034, this channel of charisma, it was really all about her voice, right? It was really about this very unique expression. So as this individualistic person, it's really interesting to see that she was so caught up in this relationship, and why might that have been? Well, as soon as I saw that Stevie was a 6'2", I decided to check when her Saturn return was. And lo and behold, it was in the middle of 1977, the year they recorded Rumors. So really, it was always going to be a tumultuous time in her life. This may have had something to do with Lindsay, or it may not have. Climbing onto the roof can be kind of intense if you're a 6 line, especially if you're this ego-defined emotional being. It's easy to blame exterior forces, but the Saturn return for any 6 line is always going to be a little bit messy. So let's take a look at Lindsay. All right. So not surprisingly, Lindsay is a manifester. He is ego authority, single definition, 1-3 profile on the right angle cross of tension. And in this documentary, they kept talking about how much tension there was between the band. Now, this man has an ego authority with the tribal ruler channel of money right here. He's a materialist, and he's got the channel of the alpha, a design of leadership. Like, this man is very self-contained as a single definition manifester, and he's not necessarily ripe for a relationship. This is not the chart of a warm and fuzzy person, right? And actually, Stevie says that about him when she's talking about how they were always yelling at each other. The manifesting generator can get to anger. The manifestor's not self theme is anger. So there was a lot of turbulence between these two, and I can kind of see why. You can't control a manifester, and trying is a fruitless and frustrating endeavor. So let's take a look at them together. I wasn't super surprised when I saw their charts together. This is 6 and 3, better to be free. You can see that there's 6 centers defined and 3 of them open. And that really means that they're meant to have a very independent relationship. And you can't really do that if you're in a band together, if you live together, if you're in a relationship together. It's too enmeshed together, really. And it's funny because there's 2 songs on the album Rumors that both Stevie and Lindsay refer to as their breakup songs to each other. And Stevie's song is Dreams. She wrote that in one day and they recorded it the following day. And it starts with the lyrics, "You say you want your freedom." And that's really what this is about, right? They were a little bit too entangled, a little bit too codependent, and they're not meant to be. That's something to know with a connection like this. And it's also something to know when you're in a relationship with a manifester. They only have 2 electromagnetic connections, and they're both individual. So it's not really about their connection to each other. It's about how they get their individuality out through each other, which doesn't really lead to a lot of romance. It sure led to some good music, which we really all appreciate, but it was at the expense of their relationship. The other song that Lindsay wrote to break up with Stevie is called Go Your Own Way, which is pretty self-explanatory. And she talked about a lyric that she took offense to, which I believe has a lot to do with both of them having the gate 59. So the lyric that I'm referring to, which Stevie took so much offense to and thought was so rude, was "Shackin' up's all you want to do." Now, if you have the gate 59, which I actually happen to have twice in my chart, that is the gate of sexuality. And a lot of the times your partner can deflect onto you or project onto you that you're a flirt. It's a natural way of expressing the fact that anytime that you're talking to somebody else, that it seems like you're flirting. And with Stevie's channel of charisma, it's very easy for Lindsay to mistake her affectionate behavior towards somebody else as flirtation. Which brings me to Mick Fleetwood. What was going on there? Did it start while she was still with Lindsay or right afterwards? We're not really sure because it was all very hush-hush. But obviously I had to take a look what was going on below the surface, so let's take a look at him. Okay, so this is Mick Fleetwood. He is a projector. He's emotional authority, split definition, 5-1 profile on the left angle cross of prevention. Now, obviously, neither Mick nor Lindsay were sacral beings, but what Mick and Stevie do have in common is this emotional authority. In fact, it is defined by the same channel, which means that they have a companionship channel. All right, so this is now Stevie and Mick together, and oh my goodness, what a difference. So this is 8 centers defined and 1 open, 8 and 1 have some fun. Together they're experiencing a bit of pressure to get things done, but these 6 electromagnetic connections are nothing to sneeze at. In fact, there's a lot more creativity here than there is with Lindsay and Stevie. But then they have this companionship together, which is all about community. It's all about the bargain. It's all about being fair to one another, which apparently in the end, Mick was not fair in that he left Stevie for her best friend, which is honestly surprising considering this chart together is so off the charts, in fact. It's so interesting to me that we've spent decades dissecting what happened in this band and how these songs came to be and how people could put aside their differences in order to make such incredible art. Well, the way I see the chemistry between Stevie and Mick is that it was actually the two of them keeping the band together. So together they have the channel of inspiration 8-1, which is all about a creative contribution to this world. And the fact that this is an electromagnetic means that they probably were really well paired in terms of creativity. They also have the channel of mating together. It's really about putting something new into this world, birthing something new. It's not a child in this case, it's a piece of art, but it's a piece of art that has stood the test of time and in fact is still a celebrated piece of art. Not to mention, they also have the channel of the wavelength together, the 4816, which is all about talent. Together, they are very talented. This is actually a connection that John Lennon and Paul McCartney had. And so it creates this incredible depth and this incredible skill that combines to make the music that they created. So I'm really surprised that these two didn't end up making it. I would love to know the design of Stevie's friend who Mick ended up leaving her for. But I think also part of this is that there was just too much history between the two of them. You know, she was talking about her solo career after she had left Fleetwood Mac and how there was just nothing to worry about. It was so drama-free. And that was a really big relief for her in the end because she had spent so many tense nights in the studio with these men who were not just at each other's throats, but also resentful of her sometimes. Then there was another couple in the band who was fighting and breaking up, and there was also obviously like substance abuse going on. So there's just a lot of drama, and we're actually lucky that we got an album out of it, honestly. It could have gone a totally different way. But it didn't, and then it ended up spawning more art, i.e. Daisy Jones and the Six, and then the TV series based on them, and the album that they wrote because of it. It's just, these messy relationships are the gift that just keep on giving. And I really appreciate that they were able to put aside their differences and be able to create something so incredible. Because if you think about it, there must be a lot of art that never got made because of interpersonal differences. And really, that's what art is about. It's about expressing the messy parts of life, not the things that are going a-okay. So guys, I think that's a really good place to wrap it up. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Please also nominate any new couples that you might want me to do an analysis for. I have a couple of people lined up in my head, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. Again, if you want to get in touch with me, all my info will be in the show notes. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Until next time, ciao for now.